exhibitors, sponsors, and participants, viewers and listeners, wherever you are. I'd like to say that you can be part of the discussion wherever you are this evening. The opening ceremony is made just for you, wherever you are watching us from here at the Accra International Conference Center, on the Joy News channel, on Joy 99.7 FM, all our social media platforms, and myjoyonline.com. To set the ball rolling, really, it's my pleasure, singular honor, to invite General Manager, Joy Brands, Francis Fifi Kumsen, to set the ball rolling with our opening remarks. Please, let's hear it out for him.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, our guest speakers, exhibitors, ladies and gentlemen. It's exciting seeing all of you here today, and having you at home also tune in. Welcome to the EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair, where dreams of finding a perfect home come alive. Ghana's housing deficit is estimated to be in the millions. This is the result of many factors, including urban planning, which is inadequate, limited investment in affordable housing, land acquisition, registration bottlenecks, and a rapidly growing population. Indeed, shelter is a basic human need, and so the lack of it presents a basic human problem. The EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair gives all Ghanaians, and in fact everyone, the opportunity to own a home, no matter what your priority may be, affordability, comfort, or luxury. Wherever you are, be heading to the Accra International Conference Center. We are here from today to Sunday. Buy a piece of land, a new home, home security system, or an appliance. You indeed could be the next home owner. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you so much, General Manager, Joy Brands, Francis Fifi Kumsen. Please, with a round of applause, let's hear it up for him again. I need my pay increase, so please do it better for him. Thank you so much. So those of you who participated last year, the big question was whether you ought to build or to buy. And we also asked the question during our mini clinics about rent to own, amongst others. So those of you who won the debate about building, you definitely have to cross the hurdle of, getting a land. Land acquisition is key. So tonight, our basic discussion will be on crossing the hurdle of land acquisition. If you decided not to buy, that's your own wahala, because Elegant Homes was available for you to buy. But of course, they also give you that land also. But if you want to do it by yourself, we are going to help you tonight. That's what Joy News EcoBank Habitat Fair is just made for you for. So this evening, this man I'm going to introduce, ideally, I would not have, gone through the whole procedure of introducing him, because this man is landlord and landlord is him. That's what I call him all the time. When it comes to land, he is it all. He knows everything about land, because all our laws were built around him. He helped us to build, put together all these laws. But for those of you who do not know him, our speaker is a senior law lecturer at the University of Ghana Law School, Ghana Law School, right? Yes, that's what we call it, because most of the time they want to interchange it amongst others. But that's what we are doing tonight. He's also a consultant to the Ministry of Lands and Forestry. He's schooled many of Land Survey Division and Ghana Institution of Surveyors. He's also one of the main persons when it comes to the Land Act 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, our key speaker for today, speaking on clearing the hurdle of land acquisition, is lawyer Kwame Gyan. Like I said, Kwame Gyan is land law, and land law is lawyer Kwame Gyan. Ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, let's welcome him as he delivers his notes on clearing the land acquisition hurdle. You are not doing it for him, please. Thank you so much.
After what MFR has said, I carry a big burden. But let me see how I will discharge this burden. Whether you buy a house or you buy land to build a house, you will still have to cross that hurdle. Because in one situation, the real estate developer has crossed the hurdle. In the other situation, you are going to cross the hurdle yourself. So this land question that we have now has some antecedents. At the time of independence, the Republic of Ghana had a population of less than 6 million. 1957, 6 March. The land mass that the Gold Coast left for us when Ghana became the successor in title. So we inherited the assets and liabilities of the Gold Coast, the colony. The Gold Coast left us a landmass of 238,000 square kilometers and a population of about less than 6 million. In the last population census, we are looking at 32 million, at least if all of us were counted. I know that I wasn't counted because no census official came to my house or office. So I know that the 32 million, I wasn't included. There might be other Ghanaians who were not counted. So plus minus 32 million. Now, if you jump population from under 6 million to 32 million in half a decade, you must be able to plan your land well. Otherwise, you have issues. And for those of you who have been monitoring how our traffic situation and our housing situation, I mean, it's the land question that we got wrong, which has become a traffic nightmare for us. So you want land to build. Now, for lawyers, the land is not simply the turf where we are sitting. For lawyers, land comprises of 3 components. There is the turf, which is what most of us call land. Now, there is also what we call the subterranean part. The part beneath the turf is also called land, up to the depths, wherever it is. Then the airspace above the turf is also land. So technically, the person who owns the turf owns the underneath and the airspace above. So the only reason you are not able to bring an action in court against the Ghana Civil Aviation for overflight of aircraft on your land is because the Civil Aviation Act exempts the airlines and the Ghana Airport Authority from lawsuits for transient overflight of aircraft on your land. Otherwise, all those people in East Legon, occasionally you see the wheels come so low that you virtually like feel it's coming on your roof. All of them could have been suing the Civil Aviation Authority, except that the law has taken away their right to bring an action. So one of the first things you must ask yourself, whether you are a real estate person or you are an individual who is looking for land, the question is, what kind of land cluster are you looking at? Because the lands are divided into clusters. Cluster number 1 are what we call the state clusters. So is this land in a compulsory acquisition area? Or is this land in a vested area? If the land is in a compulsory acquisition area, like where we are, these lands were acquired under some legislation called the Public Lands Leasehold Ordinance of 1894. So all these areas were acquired for state purposes. So if you need to get land in this area, you have to go to the Lands Commission because of Article 258 of the Constitution. You don't go to a chief. You have to go to the Lands Commission, which manages these lands on behalf of the government of the Republic of Ghana. Now, there are some other state cluster, which is called the vested lands. The typical example of a vested land in Accra has to do with the lands we call the Osumanche layout, British High Commission, GIJ. That area, the lands are vested. They were vested in the president in 1964 by a piece of legislation called EI 108 of 1964. So when land is vested in the president, it means that the ownership has not been taken away from the original owners. However, the management power has been taken away and vested in the Lands Commission. So either vested or acquired, it's the Lands Commission that gives you land. If you go to a chief who gives you land, he has nothing to give you. Because in the law, we say, nemo dat quod non habet, which means you cannot give what you don't have.
Okay. Well, it looks like the issue about vested, amongst others, brings me to just recently the issue about the Speaker's house, the Speaker's official bungalow, and whether it's been sold or nearly sold or sold. And I want to find out, since you know a lot about these lands, vested, acquired, what exactly is going on when it comes to the Speaker's bungalow? That
area is acquired. It means that the only entity that can give you a valid title. I'm not saying that nobody can give you a title, but to get a valid title, you must get it from the Lands Commission. Yes, there could be third-party busybodies who are selling to unsuspecting buyers, but they cannot give you a valid title. So where the Speaker's area is, for those of you who don't know, you get to the Togo Embassy, right from police headquarters. You get to the Togo Embassy, you turn right, as if you are going towards the U.S. Embassy. There is one turn. The next turn, that's the Speaker's bungalow, right by the wayside. So that's the Speaker's official residence. But the good thing is that the Speaker has come out to say that he never said that his house has been sold.
That was nearly sold.
Yes. And the Lands Commission has also come out to say that they have regularized the title of Parliament to that property. So I think this matter has to rest.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. But the issue about the land itself, he talks about the 3 states where we have the subterranean part, the airspace, and then the land itself. Really, it raises the concerns about when you acquire such a land, then does it mean that anything beneath it, you've talked about the airspace one, which you say, yeah, the planes can fly because of the civil aviation, permission amongst others. So if I found gold on the land that I bought, is mine?
No.
Oh.
You see, in this country, if you look at our constitution, Article 257, Clause 6, it says minerals in their natural state are the property of the Republic. And they are vested in the president who holds the minerals in trust for all of us. So there is a dichotomy between land ownership and mineral ownership. So yes, the turf is yours, the subterranean part is yours, but the minerals embedded in the subterranean part belongs to the Republic. Indeed, if, for example, you step out of this place and you find gold in its natural state, you have to hand it over to the Republic of Ghana.
Why?
Because the ownership is in the Republic.
But if I don't tell the Republic, how will the Republic
If you don't
go?
tell the Republic and it is later discovered that you found gold and you didn't show it to the Republic can charge you with stealing.
Hey.
And convict you and jail you for taking the gold, because the property in the gold is in the Republic. So far, no, but if it is a ring which has been molded by human industry, then it is not gold in its natural state. That one is not vested in the Republic. Pretty simple.
Okay. Well, I can see that this has generated a lot of discussion. I can see my audience also talking about it. But I would like to also engage those who are watching us live on TV and also on radio. You can send your WhatsApp questions via 054 010 6466. It's 054-010-6466 is the key WhatsApp lines that you can send your questions to. But really, it brings us to the big issue. The elephant in the room is the issue about land guards and acquiring. They are the main hurdle, most people say, when it comes to land acquisition.
So the land guard problem is not prevalent in the vested area and in the state areas. The land guard problem is prevalent in the non-state cluster. And the non-state clusters comprises of 1, stool lands, family lands, clan lands, Tindana lands, primarily, depending upon which part of the country
Which one is the
you are in.
Tindana land?
The Tindana lands are those lands in some parts of the Upper East, particularly region. Okay. So the areas around Bolga, the lands are not stool lands the way we know lands to be controlled by stools. So if you go to Bolga and you are looking for land to build, you don't go to the Bolga Naba. That environment within Bolga has 4 Tindanas. The Tindana simply means the descendants of the first settlers. Those who got to the land first, their descendants are the Tindanas. The Tindana is Guruni, it's a Frafra word, which comes out of Tinga, Dana. So the Tinga is the land and the Dana is the owner. Okay. So they are not, the Bolga Naba doesn't control the land. That area has 4 Tindanas controlling the land. There's a Tindana in one part called the Tindana of Soin. There's a Tindana in a place called Daporitindongo. There's a Tindana in a place called Tindomorigo. And there's a place called Tindonsobligo Tindana. So all these Tindanas are the custodians.
Okay.
So if you go to that area and you are looking for land, you don't go to talk to a chief. So that's the Tindana areas. There are the clan areas. So when you are on the Aplao Road, Pram Pram, Ningo, Adan, and its environs, the lands belong to clans. So if you go to Adan and you want land, primarily there are about 5 clans. And the clans have their heads. You have to go and see the clan head, not the chief. Okay. So for example, you could find Adibiawe, Akabiawe, Dangbebiawe, Tepebiawe, Lomobiawe. These are the owners of the lands, not the Ni Akuokun, the Adan chief. He doesn't have land.
So if I bought from the Adan chief, I'm buying from
you have bought land from somebody who doesn't own the land. And there are parts of the country where the lands belong to the stools. You know, so our stools are those customary entities represented by a chief who is supposed or expected to be acting like the managing director. Mm-hmm. So in our constitution, references to a chief includes a skin. So if you go up north, the traditional authorities don't sit on stools. They sit on skins. So stool land means skin land. When you get to a stool land area or a skin land area, so if you go to Dagon, it's a skin land area. If you go to the Mampurusi areas, skin land. So over there, you negotiate with the occupant of a skin, okay, not a Tindana.
One key issue is also the issue about double sale of lands. I buy from one person. I go to the clan, for instance. Maybe I go to the right person I ought to buy the land from. I paid so much for it. Then starts wanting to develop or register. Then I'm told that this land has been sold to someone else. Not 1, not 2 persons, maybe 3, 4, 5 people.
You see, the question of multiple transactions is pretty complex. Now, the reason it's complex is that in most cases, there is what we call the mutation of the family or the stools. So in some parts of Accra, you go to maybe Kwame Gyan Way. You are dealing with somebody who says he's the head of Kwame Gyan Way. You deal with him and his counselors. What you don't know is that the person who proffered to you that he is the head of Kwame Gyan Way is really not the head of Kwame Gyan Way. Okay. But because he wants to trade land he has created his own variation of the way. So, for anybody who wants to deal with land, if you want to acquire land in this country, most Ghanaians think they can trade land like you can trade tomatoes. So you walk to a tomato place and you say, I want one paint rubber. They fetch for you. You go home. Land lends itself to complexities. In most jurisdictions, all the lands are in the cluster 1, the state cluster. So the kinds of challenges we have here, you won't meet them in some parts, even in West Africa. Those countries in which the state allowed traditional authorities to continue to own the land have these kinds of problems. Now, for those countries, what the state should have done was to say, okay, you own the land, but the state should have been very vibrant and vigorous in determining matters of land use. But what we have here, not only did we allow traditional authorities to control the land, but the state agencies, which is the instrumentalities of the state, because our law says that the district assemblies are the primary planning authority for the districts where they have jurisdiction. But unfortunately, within the structure of government, the assemblies, unfortunately, have become the weakest link because of capacity and resources. Yeah. So the assemblies are not able to ensure compliance even with their own schemes or with schemes they have approved. So you go to A to get the land. A does not have the power to give that land. But A will take your money. B, who is the cousin of A, would come and say that A doesn't have the power. I have. Mm-hmm. So you pay to B as well. C would come. Or, like the scenario you gave, A will sell to you, myself, himself, yes, all of us. Many years back, we had legislation to try to deal with this thing. Unfortunately, for this country, when laws are passed, the challenge is not the passage of the laws. I was the leader of the team that put together the Lands Act. And we started in 2003. The act was passed into law in 2020. So the product of 17 years of work is one of the best pieces of legislation which was done through a very inclusive process. But those who passed the Land Act are not the ones who are going to be enforcing the Land Act. So there is sufficient provision made in the Land Act to deal with multiple transactions.
It protects the potential land buyer.
To deal also with the question of land guards. Mm-hmm. The law has been set out in a way that nobody mentioned land guard in the law. But
so how did they come into existence then?
So in Section 12 of the Land Act, provision has been made that if anybody should come to your land where that person doesn't have an authority and they extort money from you, or they intimidate you, or they prevent you from developing the land, the prison sentence is in the region of 15 years imprisonment, in some cases without a fine. The question is, how do you get the land guard arrested and prosecuted? In some cases, the land guards may probably be more armed than law enforcement. Mm-hmm. In some cases, the land guard may have support within the establishment. In some cases, the land guards have the support of the traditional authorities themselves. But who created the land guards? The land guards primarily were created by the landowners to help them ward off encroachments from adjoining landowners. So Stool A would bring land guards to help protect Stool A's land. Then the land guards turn against Stool A. And they turn against Stool B and Stool C. So there is enough law in the books to deal with them. What is remaining is the enforcement. And then also, the Lands Commission should set up an intelligence unit working with the police where they would be able to flag out the hotspots. You know how they handle elections and they are able to identify election hotspots. They should do some serious intelligence gathering on the land hotspots. And once you know where these landgas
are we saying we don't know where they are? Enforcement know where they are.
We know where they are. Even I know where they are.
So
because I have been around the sector for years. So I have an idea where the landgas are. And occasionally, where my clients are threatened, I call them. And I tell them, this person is my client. They say, Lawyer Gyan, we will not go there again. I mean, so it's that kind of thing. But I don't have police on my side. Am I a policeman?
You are the lawyer to the IGP.
So the lawyer to the IGP.
Yes, so maybe you can help in that regard.
So by extension, I have become a policeman.
No, you have not. You have not. But really, it takes us to the issue about registration of these lands as well. Once you're able to clear this hurdle, I'm sure we'll talk largely about how I can clear all these hurdles when I want to buy. But once you buy it, also registration becomes another issue. You have to pay so much to be able to pay, but we are told you're not supposed to pay all that.
You don't have to pay so much.
So what do I have to do?
You know, many years back, before 2008, we had a completely different land sector architecture. We had the Lands Commission, we had the Land Registry, we had the Survey Department, we had the Land Title Registry, we had the Land Valuation Board. We had 6 agencies. Each had its own head, and each had its own enabling legislation. They were all working on registration of land. Now, in 2008, I led a team of lawyers which passed through Parliament a legislation called the Lands Commission Act 2008, Act 767. And Act 767 merged the 5 agencies into one Lands Commission so that we will create or created a one-stop shop for land service delivery with a common depository of records. Many years back, if you wanted to do a search at the Lands Commission, you have to go to Survey Department, Land Title Registry, Land Registry. You have to go to every agency to conduct a search. Now, you can do one search, and all the information about that land in the different divisions will be available. So there is massive progress in the land sector. Yes, it's not up to where all of us will be comfortable. But the point about registration, in this country, there are 2 forms of registration. There is title registration and there is deeds registration.
What's the difference?
1. The difference between title registration and deeds registration is about the level of precision and the guarantee of ownership and possession and title. So let me break it into ordinary English language. If you look at Ghana, there are 16 regions now. Title registration is only in the Greater Accra region.
Okay.
And there was a pilot project which was done for the CBD, the Adum area, the Central Business District in Kumasi. And then there was another pilot project which was done around Winneba and Senya, and the project that we worked on, the Land Administration Project. The rest of the country is deeds registration. Now, what title registration does is, an area will be declared as a registration district, as a title district. And then the survey department will conduct a cadastral survey. They will survey all the parcels in that area to precision. When that is done, they will go through a process and make sure that the person they are going to register as the proprietor is indeed the proprietor.
Okay.
It means that they will test the document you have and make sure that it's not going to be a kind of fraud, or a person can give you land which doesn't belong to that person.
Okay.
So the main difference is that title gives you more assurance of security than the deeds. Because for the deeds, you can just take the document to the Lands Commission. They are not registering your title. They are recording the instrument you have brought. Okay. They are just putting it in their record that MFA is the registered proprietor of this land.
With a certificate?
Without a certificate.
Okay.
They will just give you a copy of your document after it has been registered. Okay. Nobody gives you a certificate. But for the title registry, they are expected to give you a certificate which, by the law, gives you a state-guaranteed title. The title that you get from the registration of title process is, under our law, indefeasible.
But lawyer, how is it that at every point in time, I'm sure many will bear me witness, the cadastral register, the barcoding, signing, even at the point where you have to sign, at every point you have to pay, not less than 1,000 cedis. At every point in time you pay. How much really am I supposed to pay? All the way to the title.
All the payments that you are talking about, were you given a receipt?
No, they say you
it
can't
means
get
that you are not
receipts.
supposed to pay. If the Republic...
But if I don't pay, I won't get it.
So you see, now you are going back to the point that we started with. I wasn't part of your debate on whether you buy a house or you buy... If I, Kwame Gyan, I want to get land, I can get the land because it's me. I wouldn't have the issue that some of the people would have. Okay. But to be very honest, if I have a client, for you to go get your individual plot, I would rather go to a housing estate person who has gone through the hustle
Say that again and louder, please.
That
louder.
hustle. The housing entity, all these guys whose names and logos appear here, they have more capacity to be able to engage my services, to help them disentangle the land from all the issues. That single, if, for example, you came to my office, that you have gone to buy one plot of land at Dodoa, so you want my services, you won't get.
Because it's too small.
Because how much am I going to charge you for that one plot? But the real estate company that comes, I have 20,000 acres.
Wow.
I will go and deal with the 20,000 acres and take out the troubles. So he would have 20,000 acres without trouble or minimal trouble. Go to him.
So buying a house, people, you've won. Maybe a round of applause for yourselves.
Because otherwise, you would go to Dodowa and get your one plot. You will go to Amrahia. You will go to Doyum and get your one plot. You'll be saddled with litigation on day one when you show up on the land. And you'll be in litigation for the rest of your life. I have seen this. I have practiced law. This year is my 35th year.
Congratulations.
So I have a fair idea of what will happen to you.
Thank you for giving us free advice without paying. But I have some questions also. Let's bring in our audience in this. I'll come to the audience at the Accra International Conference Center for your questions as well. But via WhatsApp, the numbers are 054-010-6466. We'll take your questions all the way to Sunday. Lawyer Kwame Gyan is available to give you answers as and when we get it. This one says, great discussion. Please, how can one identify whether a land is a stool land or clan land or vested land?
MFA, you remember the point I made about dealing with land as if you are getting tomatoes. There are people who have spent their life studying these things. They earn a living practicing it. And there are people who think lawyers should be used as if they are fire brigade people. When you use lawyers, their services, like fire brigade, by the time the fire brigade people get to your house on fire, there will be no water inside the tender. Talk to a lawyer. Seek legal advice as to whether it is stool land or clan or family or vested. This is not something you can see with your naked eyes.
Is it not a long process, expensive, tedious?
Go to a lawyer. Set up time. Go to a lawyer. How much? In fact, me like this, for something like this, I won't even bill you. I'll just look at you and tell you where the land is.
Oh, okay.
I'll give you an example. You know, Lizzie's Sports Complex in East Legon. The person who built it had been sold that land by some people from Nungwa. But the location of Lizzie Sports Complex, I had a court judgment and a judgment plan in my office. The case was Nikote Amli, the third, head of Klana Kota, versus Rebecca Kufuor, which declared that that area, Bawaleshi and Otele, belong to Klana of La. So I knew that that area is Klana. Some people had gone to sell the land to the gentleman and had given him the name New Nungwa. He had paid in full. He brought me the documents to register. I looked at him and I said, look, Chief, that area cannot be for Nungwa. It's Bawaleshi and Otele, it's La Klana. If he had consulted me earlier, he wouldn't have paid those people. But he had paid a lot of money to them. And that is what happens to most Ghanaians. They are operating, excuse me to use this phrase, on a penny-wise, pound-foolish arrangement. Oh, the lawyer will take some consultation fee from me. I won't pay. So you go and you buy litigation. Instead of paying for legal advice, you end up paying for litigation. And which one?
It's more expensive.
Exactly.
Okay, we have some more questions. This one says, what are the mortgage options? Why is mortgage not working in Ghana? You have some idea on that?
The mortgage question. Does he think mortgage is not working? Mortgage is working, except that the people who may qualify is limited. But that's what it is, not so. So maybe you want some house in cantonments. If you can afford in a different location, why not? You can start your life in some other location and gradually move to cantonments when your situation changes.
Speaking about starting life, though, as a young person, people would want to start and then want to save up and buy a land. Really, what range should we be looking at for those who are stubborn? After this, I'm sure most people would want to go to Elegant Homes, amongst others, to buy instead of to get a land. But really, what should we be looking at?
For most places, if somebody tells you that he will give you a plot for even 100,000 cedis, 100,000 Ghana, a plot, maybe 70 by 100, then the locality is somewhere in Suhum.
100,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
You should be looking at Suhum or
not even Kaswa.
Asamankesi.
Not even Kaswa.
Kaswa, maybe where you will get in Kaswa for 50,000, you will litigate for the rest of your life. So for me, that is, look at the cost of the land and add the cost of the litigation. Add the cost of the litigation, the delay in your construction. Add all of that to the cost of the land and see where you are. Your cost will be quadrupled. That is why I am proposing, and you know what? Look at all the nice areas of town. You know, the nice areas in this country. Particularly all those areas, the cantonments and the ridges. They were all those places where the state had a hand in the preparation of the schemes. Subsequently, when the real estate people came in, the Reggie Manuels and all these other places, they are competing. They are now competing with the state areas. So the real estate guys have introduced planning. They have introduced planning into the whole process. So we are better off as a country allowing the real estate people to take the lead instead of these individual constructions. What will happen to you with the individual construction? This is your house, bush, your house, bush, bush, no road. I mean,
no water.
No water. I mean.
Okay, I have more questions. I'll come to the audience. I know the microphone will be passed around. If you have a question, please, you can draw my attention, catch my eye, and I'll come to you. So the issue about the gold is coming up again. It says, please, I want to know. Samson Abanga from Hafu Kenya says, if picking your gold in its natural state and not giving it to the public is stealing, then why the laws of Ghana is not dealing with those destroying the land for gold illogically? The issue about Galamsey.
You know, MFA, I am going to be very honest here. if I was involved in dealing with galamsey, this is one of the methods I will use. I will not burn excavators. I will charge people who are found holding gold in their natural state at the mining sites and jail them. That's all I will do. I won't burn excavators. I will just use our criminal law and jail them.
Okay, there's one also here. I'm sure Papani has his headline from this particular bit about dealing with galamsey. But this one says, I inquired about the availability of land at a traditional council. After receiving positive feedback, I paid for 2 plots of land. However, for over 10 years, nothing has been done with consistent stories. What should I do?
It is because he went and paid himself. Is he not the typical Ghanaian? If he said, I used a lawyer, and the lawyer hasn't done their work, I would say, then you can do something to the lawyer. But what he has done, he is a sole operator. He probably didn't do his due diligence. And you see, MFA, one of the things about land acquisition, if you find any land as an individual and you are interested, there are 2 things you have to do. You have to conduct a search at the Lands Commission. After that, you have to conduct a physical search on the ground. If you go to a place, somebody is showing you land, there are broken walls. Broken walls. What is he telling you? The broken walls, is it not evidence of trouble? And so...
Or a heap of sand.
Or, so here, plot number 1, he says, it was given to me by MFA. Plot number 2, by Mr. Kugulenu. Plot number 3, MFA. So you have different persons giving the lands to different people within that same enclave. It means there will be multiple transactions. There will be conflicting claims of ownership. So you don't just go in there and pay for land. No. If a document search at the Lands Commission and a physical search on the ground. And then, if you want to be certain, go to the assembly as well. If it is a stool land area, go to the customary land secretariat of that stool. They have some records. So the whole process is one of the buyer must beware, which in the Latin we say caveat emptor. Okay. You've heard it. Let the buyer beware.
So, buyer, are you here? Beware. Do we have any questions from the audience? If you can catch my eye, then we can quickly take your questions. Then we can... Okay, great. Gentleman there, please. Right there, behind Elegant Homes. Right there. DBS. I know you're from DBS. Your name briefly.
Good evening. My name is James with DBS Industries Limited. I wanted to find out from a lawyer, what's the lease period on land in Ghana? And my second question has to do with, can a foreigner buy land in Ghana? If yes, what are the conditions and the procedures looks like? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, MFA. In this country, we don't have a particular piece of legislation which determines how long or the tenure of leases. A lease is an agreement between 2 persons relating to land, which gives one of the persons what we call exclusive possession for a duration, which is either certain or capable of being made certain. It is a contract. So a lease is primarily a contract. Those of you who are familiar with NTSC versus entry, a lease is a contract. So a real estate person or a seller, a vendor, can tell you, I am giving the land to you for 70 years, for 50 years, for 30 years, 99 years. It is a contract. It is not determined by the state. Okay. Then, foreigners and land. Our Constitution, Article 266, says no person who is not a citizen of Ghana can hold a freehold interest in land in this country. A freehold interest, a freehold. A freehold interest is a grant of land. So I give you land. It has an indefinite duration. and it is potentially perpetual. So a freehold does not have a termination date. It's not a leasehold. A leasehold has a commencement date and a termination date. But a freehold has a commencement date, but not a termination date. Okay. A foreigner cannot hold a freehold in any land in this country. Now, if you look at the same constitution, in Article 266(4), a foreigner can hold a lease for only 50 years at one time. So if you are a real estate company and somebody comes to you and he's not a Ghanaian, you cannot even give them 50 plus 1 day of lease. You can't do it. Because under our law, a non-citizen can hold a lease maximum 50 years at one time. It means you can give that Nigerian 50 years subject to renewal for another 50 years. But you are not allowed to give a leasehold interest for more than 50 years at one time.
Ladies and gentlemen, lawyer Kwame Gyan. A round of applause for him once again. He's on standby. He has promised that he will still take your questions till the end of the fair and beyond. He's very accessible, very available. But at this point, I'd like to invite, I think we should give him a standing ovation at this point. Let's give him a standing ovation. Let's give lawyer Kwame Gyan a standing ovation. Yes, thank you so much. And then